Welcome to another edition of Planet Waves TV. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, the host of Planet Waves FM and the editor of PlanetWaves.net. Welcome back. I took a week and a half off from doing Planet Waves TV. Could not miss the opportunity to do a focused reading of the Eclipse Chart that is or was Thursday morning at 5:06 a.m. Okay, my phone is talking to me. This is going to go into airplane mode. There's a lot of interconnectivity of the world. So that eclipse is 5:06 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Thursday. Let's first talk about what an eclipse is. There's this thing called the ecliptic, and that's where eclipses happen, basically. And the difference between an eclipse and an ordinary new moon, and that's taking one step back, this total eclipse of the sun in the sign Virgo is also the Virgo new moon, meaning that the sun and the moon form a conjunction in Virgo. But let's try to find some ordinary household objects. For example, this amethyst ball and this little nifty thing that it sits on. Normally when there is a, let's pretend this is the sun, it's purple, and this is the moon. When the moon goes past the sun for the new moon, it typically goes over or under, depending on the time of year and the time of history. However, when there is an eclipse, the moon goes right over the sun. It aligns exactly. And because of the relative distance, how do I get this to work right? Because of the relative distance, even though the moon is much smaller than the sun, how do you do this? It blocks it out completely. When the moon only blocks the sun a little bit because it's too close to the Earth and therefore is letting through some of the sunlight, that's called an annular eclipse. Annular eclipse. Tomorrow's eclipse is a total solar eclipse. I wouldn't call them rare, but they definitely are special occasions. And it happens in the sign of the cosmic feminine, which is Virgo. Did a reading a couple of weeks ago on Planet Waves FM from this book, Esoteric Astrology by Alice A. Bailey. It doesn't normally come with a steal your face on it, but on my copy, I put a Grateful Dead logo on there. And I read about the kind of, let's say, deeper implications of the sign Virgo. Worth checking out. It was the edition before this past Tuesdays, and I read most of the Virgo chapter by Alice Bailey. In my opinion, the sign descriptions and the sign deconstruction of esoteric astrology is the best that there is. There's some other good ones, but they will be in harmony with esoteric astrology. So if you really want to understand the deeper idea of what your sign is about, check out that. It's not easy reading. It may take you a couple of years to actually understand it, but the material is in there. And we read from Virgo, one of the really beautiful chapters in this book, that says that, first of all, Virgo is one of the oldest signs, meaning that the concept of Virgo is one of the earliest consecrated signs in all of astrology, and that's because the cosmos is feminine. The cosmic order is an inherently, I can't prove this to you in this 15-20 minute video, but the cosmic order is inherently a feminine thing, and it is symbolized in the sign Virgo, among other places, but Virgo is sort of like its headquarters. And all of the earth symbolism of Virgo and the goddess symbolism and the ability of Virgo to feed us, which is what we get from Virgo, and associated with all manner of food, basically dairy and grain and all this, is kind of a byproduct of this inherently cosmic feminine abundance coming from Virgo. On the human level, it's not an easy sign to be born under. There's challenges associated with Virgo, mainly the challenge of integration. Virgo is kind of like Gemini that married itself, and though we could say the same about Sag, but Virgo really has that quality of that first attempt to fully integrate the pairs of opposites that are depicted in Gemini. And so that can lead to some real conflict on the Earth plane, and it can lead to some struggles keeping steady about what you believe and what you want. And Virgos have a serious mission on this planet in this lifetime, which is to be fully present for all of who they are. Virgo cannot pick and choose and be some parts of who you are and throw away some other parts. Virgo's mission in this lifetime is to activate, bring in all of who you are, perhaps if you're Virgo rising, Virgo moon, and be that fully. And so that is challenging, to be in integrity. To be in integrity means to be integrated, like black kids and white kids going to school in the same building. Well, if as a Virgo, if you are one, and anywhere you happen to have Virgo in your chart, working on this path of inner integration. And that's what we get with a total eclipse in Virgo. We get a kind of an acceleration, and we get a kind of an acceleration of the process of integrating these seemingly opposing factors of who and what a person is. There's many sub-personalities contained within people, and it's not easy to always figure out what those sub-personalities are about. But if you're listening, if you're paying attention, if you have a good therapist and go to therapy and do the work of therapy, and if you're a devoted metaphysical student and you're not taking the teachings on the level of magical transformation, you would instead take them on the idea that, okay, there's a whole chart, and the whole chart is you. You don't represent just one little part of your chart. You take in the whole cosmos. You are the microcosmos. So while we're here with our handy super solid physical thing, I see what the issue is. Short cable. All right. Here is what the eclipse looks like. This is a meeting of the sun and the moon at 9 degrees 21 minutes of Virgo. You might recognize that degree range if you know your own chart. Currently, as I'm recording, the moon is in Leo. Nope, the moon has made its way into Virgo, so I don't have to tell you when it enters. The moon's currently 1 degree Virgo, so it's fair to say that as of this recording, the eclipse is underway. Now, I want to show you a couple of the really interesting features of this eclipse chart. You may be familiar with previous Planet Waves FM, where I described the way in which certain aspects were bringing out of the background the Saturn-Neptune square. Right? There's Saturn, and it's square Neptune all year and into next year. And the most recent thing to bring out the Saturn-Neptune square was Mars, making a conjunction to Saturn and a square to Neptune. Mars has now moved on into later Sagittarius, and I go into this in much greater detail on Planet Waves FM. It is sitting conjunct the great attractor Laniakea, the galactic supercluster of which our galaxy is a part. Worth hearing that discussion. It's a little abstract, but no less beautiful for being abstract, and honoring the latest science of what this thing is in mid-Sagittarius. So I'll leave you to check that out on Planet Waves FM, first or second segment. However, what is now bringing out the Saturn-Neptune square is an eclipse of the sun that is square Saturn and opposite Neptune. Yeah. So the Saturn-Neptune square is kind of the ultimate mixing up of the dream level of Neptune and the form level of Saturn. So there's a synthesis of a new substance. When I think of the Saturn-Neptune square, though I haven't done the charts on the inventions of things like polymers and plastics, but when I did the history of the Saturn-Neptune aspects, we did some thorough research into the history of Saturn-Neptune aspects for the 2016 annual Vision Quest. Had some help from a guy named Mike Elliott, very competent, qualified research from a kind of lawyer whose mind is open, who's a good astrologer, Mike, found out the sum total of the list reminded me of, wow, this is sort of like figuring out how to get oil and water working together. How do you make how do you synthesize a polymer? How do you synthesize plastic? You get different elements working together. And oil and water can work together in a number of different ways, one of which is offset printing. All the printed material that you see is offset printed, except for like single printed cards for $10 in the boutique. Anything that rolls off a press is called offset printing, and that's based on the principle that oil and water don't mix. But the fact that they don't mix led to this stunning, beautiful invention of offset printing, borrowing that principle. So you can either make the oil and water mix, do that work, do the calculation, or you can work with the fact that oil and water don't mix. But in any event, with Saturn and Neptune, you're working with one thing that is seemingly a solid, tangible substance, and with Neptune, something that is an ethereal, imaginary substance. And so we have here an image of the fusion of imagination and the gaining of some advantage by working with things that don't normally work together. So the sun and moon conjunction is activating this, because when the sun and the moon make a conjunction, and this is very close to a 1 degree aspect all the way around, they turn on the aspect that's in the background. The aspect in the background is Saturn-Neptune. Anything with Neptune is likely to be in the background. Add the sun and the moon to it, and there can be this emergence of, or flourishing of, or making apparent of something that wasn't there before. Now, if you'll notice, I have a word written in up here, not planetary glyph, and that's because there are not any of the major planets or well-used centaurs, which I consider to be basically major planets, in that exact degree range, within 1 or 2 degrees of the eclipse, right? So when I'm looking for, step back, this is a T-square. When there's a T-square, it's always interesting to look at what the fourth point of the square has going on. The more planets you have in your toolbox, the more options you have for putting something in, and there happens to be something really interesting and cool and beautiful in this degree of Gemini, completing the Grand Cross, which is a trans-Neptunian object, a thing that's beyond Neptune and beyond Pluto, but not by much, called Altjira. It's named for an aboriginal god. I learned a little bit about aboriginal gods yesterday. Did my study work out loud on Planet Waves FM, though I'm waiting to hear from people in the audience who are from down under, or who are fascinated with aboriginal mythology, who know some specific things about Altjira that I know that I'm missing. But Altjira is the god of the dreamtime. He is the he is like a living creation presence in the dreamtime who you can tap into, and it turns out that this living creative presence is all about creative manifestation. It's as if you, through tapping into Altjira, who's very much connected to certain power points on the land, you then can enter the dreamtime and enter a kind of a meta-creative state. We could place this on any one of a number of dimensions. We could place it as a 5D morphogenetic field. We could place it as a fourth dimension causal plane phenomenon, but it's a higher plane. It's not the normal astral plane. It's taking the dream plane on the level of active creativity rather than, wow, that's a weird thing that I dreamed. You know, there's like 2 basic kinds of dreams. There's the dream where you're in self-creative mode, and then there's the dream where the dream is just happening to you. Now, of course, when the dream is just happening to you, you're also creating it. It's coming out of your consciousness. But within your own consciousness, there's different levels that you may access and be able to reach a meta state of what you might think of as self-creation. And therefore, with Saturn square Neptune encouraging that very thing, right, that synthesis between what is let's say, seemingly solid and seemingly vaporous or liquid, and an eclipse activating that, Altjira is the perfect person to have there, the perfect kind of spooky entity from the astral plane, who's our good friend. I love Altjira. Activating the very thing that is the thing that matters the very most about the higher levels or subtler levels of reality, which is you can go there, you can work with them, you can use them, and this is a part of the point of learning to be creative and also working with higher plane experiences, learning how to guide your mind there. And so, apart from all that, if you're not into any of that, it's enough to say that this is a creatively fertile moment in the story of the greater metropolitan cosmos. It's going by and we can see it beautifully for what it is. There are other signs of synthesis in this chart, this similar synthesis. And by the way, one of the ways that you can tell that a chart is speaking to you is that the chart starts to say the same thing in different and interesting ways over and over again. And this is not so much you ever forcing yourself on it or looking for it as much as you just notice that there are similar messages. Here's another message of synthesis. So far we have the Saturn-Neptune square being activated by the eclipse. Then we have Altjira, a dream plane entity who's all about meta-creativity and in the Grand Cross pattern, as if he is personally facilitating it and will help lead you to those places on Earth where that manifestation can happen, which might be right in your neighborhood down there. Then there is the second of three conjunctions between Jupiter and retrograde and Mercury, this time with Mercury retrograde. So we had one last week where Mercury came through late Virgo and made a conjunction to Jupiter, which is at the very end of its run in Virgo. In just 9 days, Jupiter enters Libra. See that little arrow there? That means that Jupiter's on the move. It's going to enter Libra. And so this Mercury retrograde conjunct Jupiter in Virgo is a second conjunction in Virgo. And it too is a sign of the synthesis of opposites, the synthesis of the tangible, mental, intelligent quality of Virgo via Mercury in Virgo, and then Jupiter, the representative of Pisces and of Sagittarius, representing a kind of intuition or let's say direct contact with the planes beyond ordinary intelligence. And so we have a meeting of Mercury, super intelligent, and Jupiter in Virgo, super intelligent. Only this is the second of three conjunctions where Mercury is retrograde, and that retrograded Mercury is saying, seek the knowledge inside yourself, rather than seeking it outside of yourself. Ultimately, all esoteric knowledge is something that's tapped into introspectively and internally, no matter how many books you may read. And I'll give you an example from homeopathy. That whole bookshelf in the back there is most of it is homeopathy and herbalism. Some of these homeopaths are very well schooled in what they do, and astrology could learn a lot from homeopaths. Kudos to the homeopaths for having much better books that we have at Astrology, and having made their method and their training method really good. And a couple of homeopaths have said to me that they'll hear the client report the case, and they'll know the remedy. They'll get the remedy right on the spot. Then they'll go through all the process of the formal research into the remedy called repertorization. You use the repertory and you make all the associations. You translate what the client said. They are more comfortable sleeping on the left side. They're thirsty in the night but not in the morning, all this stuff. And we'll come out with the same remedy that they thought of. Astrology works in a similar way. You internalize the knowledge. It no longer is book knowledge. It's knowledge that you totally, personally own and take responsibility for. That is Mercury retrograde conjunct Jupiter in Virgo. This is the dialing in of your true inner innate wisdom, some of it trained, some of it inbred, some of it given to you by the gifts of the gods, some of it having been brought in from numerous lifetimes that you have lived. But the retrograde Mercury turns the quest for knowledge to an internal thing where you then trust your inner being to provide you with that gift of knowledge. So it's no longer about looking it up in books. Now you have to ask yourself, what is this about? What is this moment in my life about? What is this choice about? What is this opportunity about? And what do I know that will give me the information that I need from myself to make the right decision, to know who the right person is, and so forth. So there's a kind of a sacred inner marriage, and all of this synthesis with Mercury retrograde conjunct Jupiter, right? There are opposite factors, whether we're looking at Mercury as ruler of Gemini, opposite Jupiter, ruler of Sag, or Mercury, ruler of Virgo, opposite Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces. They are complementary factors, quite beautifully thought of by our old friend Mr. Eudoxus, the inventor of all of this stuff. And this is the sacred inner meeting of who you are with who you are. So keep those inner lights on, and do your meditation practice and your artistic practice and your sexual practice sincerely and with an ear open for your inner thing. A few other points from here. This eclipse is the first of an eclipse pair. There was an eclipse, very mild eclipse, 2 weeks ago with the moon in Leo, a very faint penumbral eclipse that is presaging the eclipses to come on the Aquarius Leo axis next year. They move back sign by sign, right? So now, this year the eclipses are Pisces, Virgo, and then next year the eclipses will start to be in Leo and Aquarius, right? So the eclipses move gradually retrograde as eclipse pairs. But the current eclipse pair that we are having right now is an eclipse, solar eclipse in Virgo, and then a lunar eclipse in Pisces, right? So we're getting the first of the first kind of activation of the Virgo Pisces axis with the eclipse opposite Neptune. Very, very dreamy. This is the Altjira eclipse. We will learn something about traveling and moving in the dream time, time beyond the normal realms of time. Subjects that are dear to my heart that I would sit here and talk about for hours and have all kinds of great fun. On the list of the most fun you can have out of bed. And good for bed. Okay, so this eclipse is opposite Neptune, but the lunar eclipse happens conjunct Chiron. So that little barbell symbol, that's the lunar eclipse. The moon's going to be right there. I will just draw it in for your convenience so that you can see where the moon is going to be approximately on 9/16. We'll color it in to show that it's being eclipsed. It's going to be dark. It's a penumbral eclipse, but those can be beautiful to look at. So that eclipse is going to be right there, and the sun is going to be in late Virgo on the 16th, right? By that time, Jupiter will have changed signs into Libra. Currently, Venus has entered Libra. That is beautiful, and it's sexy, and it's good for passion and rock music and art and love. Venus just loves Libra. It's bright sign, and that is emphasizing beauty and softness and celebration right in time for in the United States this holiday weekend. One last thought about eclipses, and I'll leave you with that. I've talked a lot about eclipses. I have an article that's posted around the internet, and it's called The Great Reveal. And it really brings out the eclipse theory that I've been developing over the past 20 years. I say that because the Great Reveal has at its core an older Planet Waves article from the summer of 1999, almost 20 years ago, that I have resurrected a number of times. I went back to the original and reworked it to give almost all of the main properties of eclipses, but there's one that I didn't include, and I want to include that now, which is the manifestation property of eclipses. Now, we've talked about that in terms of the activation of Saturn-Neptune and the presence of our old friend Altjira, the god of the dream plane, and of creative manifestation. However, eclipses have another thing, which is the establishment of patterns. And so this is a time to pay attention to in your life and make sure that you are setting limits and setting goals, and most of all that you're acting on doing the thing that you want to do. And so that is to say, whether you're hearing this on the Wednesday before, we're going to get this out ASAP, or hearing it on Thursday, the day of, or whether you're catching it during the next the weeks leading up to the eclipse in Pisces, as the moon is waxing, pardon. This is the time to set the pattern by physically doing the thing you want to do. Go from the to-do list to actual physical biological action. Virgo is a super intelligent sign associated with both writing and healing. It's also associated with technology. It's associated with ideas in all forms. There is all of those fields of action are wide open to you. But again, the key with an eclipse is to set the pattern by taking action more than just setting intentions. I hear a lot of this setting intentions stuff at the full moon, and every month my inbox is stuffed with the wave of emails for my colleagues who do their little new moon newsletter and say, time to set intentions, time to set intentions. Yes, the way that you set intentions is you fucking do the thing. You do what you want to do. Even if you do it for an hour and say, I'm doing this for an hour. If you're a guitar student and you haven't had your guitar out of the case for 6 months, now's the time to take your guitar out of the case and play it, and then do it again the next day, and again the next day, and set the intention through actual physical, biological participation in your own life. That's what I have to say to you. I have finished fairly recently, partly why I took some time off from Planet Waves TV. See all those charts? How do you point to those charts? They're right there. Those are the charts for balance. I have done many 12 readings for your signs and rising signs. They're available as a complete block of readings, all 12, I think, for $57, or available individually. If you're new to me, new to Planet Waves, these readings are worth trying. If they are not the best money you've ever spent in astrology, by which I mean the best money you've ever spent, we will refund your money on the spot. My goal with the work that I do is 101% customer satisfaction. There's a reason that these video presentations are so good, which is that I have devoted my life to learning how to do them every day for all 22 years that I have been an astrologer. My goal is astrology for the people. The prepared readings that you get don't need to be as iffy as they are, and there's many ways into the matrix, and the real question is, how do I do this without the time of birth? But that's what I have been working on. I learned from Patrick Walker, the great horoscope writer who died in 1995, how to work without the time of birth. There's another way into the matrix. It's called horary astrology, the oldest astrology, and I love it. And I give you a reading kind of like I'm about to do right now with that same chart for the Virgo birthday reading. All right, so that balance thing, just click on any of Planet Waves websites, planetwaves.net, members.planetwaves.net, Planet Waves FM. Thank you, Anatoly and Kate in the Ukraine, for producing this video, and I will catch you on a different day. Lots of love, and bye for now.